Hi everyone, just wanted to share some information regarding our week 3 materials. Strategic planning process, obviously we talked last week a bit about external analysis. And this applies, I'm talking strategic planning here, but it really applies to both the strategic planning and marketing side because we do this for both sides of the coin. Um, so the we're at this external analysis standpoint. And so the one thing that we do in external analysis is a service area competitor analysis. And obviously, within that, the purpose is, we're avoiding any surprises in the marketplace. We want to make sure that, everyone's aware of our competitors, who we are competitive with and not. And that's always an interesting discussion in itself because the people that some think they are competitors with really are not that. When you think about a small physician practice as compared to say a large like part of the UPMC physician group or a large national physician group, which there are some of those as well. They may see each other as competitors, but they're a lot of the time they're not. Competitors for a small physician practice are likely going to be their main competitors are going to be those like them. Sometimes the little small fish can't compete with that big fish in the pond. So it's really important to know your true competition in the field and to who you need to respond. So if a company like you know Family Physicians Group, which is a sizable group, a nationwide group that's operated. I think Humana operates them. So, a group like that, if they come out and say, "Oh, okay, we're going to offer, this specific type of really concierge type care management service." That's great because they have tons of folks to lean on to do that type of thing. A small physician practice may or may not be able to do that. So you need to realize who are the organizations that you truly need to respond to in the market, and who of them do you not because they're beneath you from a competition standpoint, but then also those that are, kind of beyond your grasp currently as a competition standpoint. So just understanding that and providing a forum for leaders to discuss and evaluate all of those types of things. What are we capable of? Are we capable of becoming that big fish in the pond? How do we fit against our competition? How do we fit in the marketplace? What share of the marketplace do we have? All of those cool things. So just important to talk about. And then obviously building consensus ultimately so that there's buy-in for the entire strategy. So sorry, I had to get through all those things. So all of these things are important to the process of the competitive analysis and the external environmental analysis. So by getting all of these things in place, it will help us to better implement our strategy, anticipate what our competitors are doing, and then shorten the time required to respond to those competitors, because that's an important piece as well. So sometimes, and I kind of just touched on this as well, sometimes we misjudge. So some of the obstacles in place in this case. So sometimes we misjudge our industry or our service area. One of the questions, I think everyone's done the quiz. So one of the questions on the knowledge check from last week was about service area. And sometimes our service area may be very small. Sometimes our service area may be the entire globe. It depends on the types of services that we're providing, who our competitors are in that marketplace, and what patients are willing to do to get to see you as a provider. So sometimes we misjudge that. Sometimes we think that people are coming from the whole state or the whole country to see us, when in fact we have 2 or 3 patients that are doing that maybe. But the bulk of our service area is right around within a 50-mile radius of our organization. So sometimes we misjudge those things and think we're either more than we are or less than we are. So an accurate analysis of that is important. Poor identification of the competition, overemphasis on competitors or where we're competing, faulty assumptions about the competition, and then the ever-present paralysis by analysis, where we just beat something to death, and then you've spent so much time analyzing it that nothing's getting done. Important to be aware of all of those obstacles. So, service area competitive analysis is, talk about paralysis by analysis, but this is kind of where what we're looking at, various steps in that process to really get to the ultimate end factor of understanding our competitors and understanding how to react to them quickly if they make changes in their product line, their service line, etc. So the five forces analysis, and I think that we talked about five forces last week. I apologize. My cat is being a huge pain right now. He's determined to be on my desk. So I think we talked a bit about five forces last week. And if not, yeah, I think I did a bit in the slides from last week. So, suppliers, buyers, substitutes, potential entrants, and then rivalry amongst the competitors. All big pieces overall in the all big pieces overall in the this analysis. So to do this structural analysis of the service area, Porter's five forces analysis can be a good option, as opposed to a SWOT analysis, which takes a look at both internal and external environment. The five forces can be much more detailed review of that. So it's going to look at threat of new entrants. It's going to look at the level of rivalry, all of those types of things. Yeah, I knew I skipped a slide. There we go. So barriers to entry in looking at the overall structural analysis and the threat of new entrants. So what are the barriers to entry for folks that providing the same services that we provide, or if we're looking to get into a new service, what are the barriers to entry? It costs a lot to get into the service. It's difficult or expensive to switch from one service provider to another. There are legal constraints or governmental constraints. People that are already providing this service have cost advantages that they've developed that wouldn't be available. Existing organizations have those economies of scale already. So just different barriers to entry if we are looking to move into a new marketplace, or if we're doing our analysis and we're seeing people trying to move into our marketplace. So for a specific situation or a specific service, etc. The level of rivalry amongst existing organizations is another big piece. And for those of you that are in the Pittsburgh metro area, you see that rivalry every day just by driving down the road. If you drive down the Parkway, there's a million different billboards from AHN and from St. Clair and from UPMC. And the rivalry, especially between AHN and UPMC, is very intense, super intense. So, that intensity of that rivalry, which was caused through some consternation about contracting many years ago, but it really has resulted in a really intense rivalry between the two. And so you really need to look at this intensity of rivalry. Are the competitors balanced? And that's when we talk about intense rivalry, we tend to leave out places like, and again, for those of you that are not from the Pittsburgh market, I apologize, but St. Clair Hospital or Heritage Valley Health System, much smaller local health systems that really are not, ultimately, sorry about that. My husband invariably texts me when I'm recording a video, so I need to remember to mute the messages before I hop on to record. So, invariably, we're going to have situations where they are competitors. So St. Clair and Heritage Valley, they compete for patients, but they're not. It's not the intensity of the rivalry that exists between UPMC and AHN. Just because UPMC and AHN have such a large percent of the marketplace. And their sizes are more similar, that these smaller organizations have some trouble adapting to that. So just be aware. There's certain pieces to this that create intensity of rivalry, and we really need to analyze ourselves and analyze our competitors to figure out: does it make sense for us to be a huge rival of this organization or not? How I can't even think of a good word for it, but how strongly, I guess, are we going to pursue this rivalry with them, or are we going to let them have their space and we're going to be in our niche space that works out well for, like St. Clair in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, where there aren't a lot of AHN or UPMC hospital facilities. So they do well, just meeting their niche there. Threat of substitute products and services is the next one. So, when we have those situation where we're looking at other substitutes, are there many services that perform about the same function as ours? Are there lower cost substitutes? Are the buyers of this type of service the type that are going to try out a bunch of different things or substitute things frequently for this particular service? Or are they the type that are going to remain loyal to an organization that has provided them with a good service? And then ultimately, also, and this goes back to value, if the buyers of the service can't tell the difference between the effectiveness of the alternative. So we need to provide them, if we do have a service that we provide that's easily substituted, what value can we bring that will cause them not to substitute? Don't go to the other people across the street. We can provide it to you, in as an effective manner as they can, but we also provide you with this value add, whatever that might be. So that's an important piece too. The bargaining power of buyers or customers, or in our case, patients, typically. So the buyers have strong bargaining power because they come to us and they expect that we provide them with services. However, they don't have the same type of bargaining power that they would if they were to go to purchase a car or go to purchase something at a grocery store, although they don't have much bargaining power there either. But it's important to realize that sometimes products are standard. So it's, you go for a visit and it only costs the patient $10 or $20 or whatever because of their copay. What we're seeing now is that buyers are having more bargaining power because of high deductible health plans. So it's gone from the point where hospitals can charge whatever they want to being a point where the buyers have some say. If you're a really high cost provider and if you're not participating with health plans, people are probably not going to come to you because they're paying, like for my health plan, and I may have mentioned this in a previous video, I have a $3,000 deductible that I have to pay out of pocket before anyone's paying for my services. So I'm going to probably check pricing for things like labs and x-rays and see who charges less because, I don't anticipate meeting that $3,000 every year, although I will with prescription drugs. But generally, I'm probably going to shop around and find the most reasonable cost provider to provide my services. So it's it's kind of a bargaining power issue that didn't exist in the past. You usually just went wherever and you paid whatever, and that was insurance. Now buyers have more bargaining power because if you're a high cost provider, they may start leaving your facility to go to a lower cost provider. So a lot of additional detail here on the slide, really fitting more within the realm of products than services, but important nonetheless. And then bargaining power of suppliers is the next piece. So, are there few substitutes for the supplies? Are there few suppliers? The buyer's industry is not considered an important customer. The suppliers pose a threat to us in some way. Switching costs from one supplier to another are high. So think about these things when, that whole notion of supply chain and, what bargaining power do our suppliers as an organization have in our realm as compared to the bargaining power of our buyers or our customers. So important differentiations there. And in looking at in looking at the five forces analysis overall and how that impacts your organization, you may see it may take going through a few times until you can kind of figure out all of the pieces of the puzzle and get all of that together. So if all 5 forces are favorable, you're going to be seeing little or friendly competition, which in many areas that's the case. The Pittsburgh market is a great case study for not friendly competition between healthcare organizations. It's difficult for new competitors to enter, few or no good substitutes for the product. Buyers are not controlling the price, the quality, the design, or the volume of the product or service, and suppliers are not controlling input to the production. So that's when all 5 forces are favorable for the organization. If they're unfavorable, we're looking at things like unfriendly competition, easy for new competitors to come in, many substitutes, buyers really driving price, quality, design, etc., and suppliers having control over the inputs to really direct our business and how it's going to go. So you can see, and there's lots of analyses here. I might throw these slides up in the classroom. It's might be helpful for you to take a look at them. But sometimes you can have a few of them that are good and not. When it's an evolving product, you'll have things that are good and not good. Moving from rivalry to no rivalry, those types of things. So lots of analyses. Obviously, this is all bad, like the one that we had looked at. Things like new regulations, new technologies, changes in the socioeconomic or demographic world, changes in competition, those are all going to impact the viability of products and services that are evolving over time. So important stuff there. I wanted to take a look at let's see. So this is kind of a good example. I think this was the one that I wanted to look at, if I can get that thing to go away on there. So this is just looking at this is plastic surgery competitors, looking at the overall competitive marketplace. These are in the Charlotte service area. So you can see on the bottom here, we have a axis that goes reconstructive, cosmetic, and spa plus cosmetic. So a range of products and services. Those on this low end and reconstructive are the kinds of folks that are obviously doing plastic surgery that is medically necessary. Then as we move toward the right of this axis, obviously cosmetic is cosmetic, and spa plus cosmetic is cosmetic plus those spa services that many cosmetic surgeons now offer, because people want more than just the surgery. They want to have a spa-like environment. They want to offer spa-like services, and specifically spa services, facials, and that kind of stuff in conjunction with their surgical procedures. So that's kind of the range. And then obviously here on this other axis, we have practice size, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 providers. So it's interesting to see this and to see how, if I can get this to, I can't get it to go away now. I'll just stop moving my cursor. So it's interesting to see how they kind of group together, right? So down here on this end, we have Charlotte ENT and Matthews, who are the ENT folks, big practice, Matthews, single provider, but they both focus on reconstructive surgery. The groups in the middle there are more focused on cosmetics, but with some overlap down to reconstructive as well. And you'll see that, like this group 2 here and group 4, I would say that's probably indicative of most areas, their plastic surgery service. Once we move up here towards the spa cosmetic section, group 1 has kind of a mix of cosmetic and spa cosmetic. And then group 3 is obviously the spa cosmetic side. So these groups are really competing amongst themselves. So group 4 is kind of all competing amongst themselves. A lot of providers providing cosmetic surgeries with some reconstructive stuff. Group 2, small providers, single or 2 doc practices. Doing cosmetic mainly, some reconstructive. Some folks are involved in pro bono work in third world countries, or helping patients, not now obviously, but when patients could come here to travel to have surgical procedures, doing pro bono work. But as you move further out towards this end of this axis, this is all cash business out here. So what's important is for Dr. Matthews here to not try and compete with Dr. Diaz. That's not going to make sense for him. Dr. Matthews' competition is, depending on what type of service he does, it might be this Charlotte group, it might be these group 2 and group 4, but they need to be aware of who their competitors are. It doesn't make sense for a reconstructive surgeon to try and compete with a spa/cosmetic surgery place. It just doesn't make sense. Now, for this group 1 to compete with group 3, they tend to be leaning a little bit further that way. Maybe that makes some sense. But it's just important that, they're, if I can get this to go away on the bottom, they are kind of competing within their own groups. And that's key as well. The other thing that's, and it's mentioned here in the last sentence, for docs that are not board certified, I think that especially in cosmetics now, with all of the reality shows out there that show the horrors of cosmetic surgery, non-board certified plastic surgeons are not even in the same realm as competing with board certified plastic surgeons. Because I think more and more people, especially when you're paying cash for something, more and more people realize the importance of going to the highest level of provider that's available to them, and board certified docs are going to be it. So making sure that you've got the best options. So just wanted to look at that example. There's a lot of information on the service area competitive analysis in the textbook. The other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I won't belabor it, I've been talking for a bit, is how this plays in with marketing. So we're talking a lot about strategic planning when we're talking about the textbook information, but it doesn't talk a lot about marketing. Well, marketing does this same thing. If you're looking at a marketing process, that marketing process needs to be walking hand in hand with the strategic planning process down the road. And if you're not walking hand in hand, then you're just doing double work, and it's silly to do so. So your marketing team and your folks that are kind of leading the strategic planning surge need to be working together to make sure that everything that they have is copacetic, and they're the same bits of information, and then they can help one another out to try and save time and effort overall. So the textbook may speak about strategic management and strategic planning specifically, but it really is applicable. All of these types of analyses are very applicable to the marketing world. We may do them more frequently in marketing than we would in the planning realm, because you may have a planning cycle every 3 years or every 5 years. And until a new product or service comes up, you're not digging back into that. Whereas marketing really stays on top of that for us and makes sure that we are aware of competitors coming in. How are we reacting to them? Do we need new marketing pieces to react to a new competitor in our market? Or are they really not a player in our marketplace, and so we shouldn't worry about them, etc. So just important pieces to be aware of overall. One other thing, I did want to hop over to the classroom quick. So in week 3, we do have a case study. The case study itself is right here, and so you can click on this case study and read it, but it is a group case study. So make sure that your groups are assigned. Make sure that you are looking at your assigned groups, and then the questions that you'll answer are here as well. So you'll just assign complete the assigned questions as a group, submit it to here. Only one person will need to submit it, and I think that's it. So any questions on that, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing everyone in the classroom. Thanks.